Hello?
of the subject matter. All right, I think we are ready now. Good morning to you, sir. Welcome to the program.
Bishop, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you
Great.
so much, sir, for always joining us on our program. I sincerely appreciate you, sir. Thank you
Thank,
so much for joining us
thank you
today.
thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning to our
All
wonderful
right, sir.
callers and listeners.
Okay, sir. All right. So today's discussion centers on various happening in our nation, but we want to look at this discussion in light of two major happenings. So we're looking at politics amidst rising insecurity in the country, in Nigeria. And then one of the most prevalent questions that I've seen many Nigerians ask is, which one should we be doing at the moment? Which one should come first? What is the president role at hand? But before we look at those things, I just want to, uh, uh, you know, join us in the conversation on this particular subject matter. Then from there, subsequently, I can now move for a ways to, of course, to chip in one or two questions. Thank you so much, sir.
Well, again, thank you for having me, and it's always glad having this conversation. Clearly, what you've seen over time, or just as I had said yesterday, it's a clear manifestation of politics over governance. That's what it is. And unfortunately for all of us, we are having this scenario because really we do not even have democracy. What we have is elite capture disguised as democracy. Now, let me say clearly that as we speak, hours after KB guests were taken, the president sent the vice president to Lokoja, to Kogi State, precisely Lokoja, to receive the campees to APC. As we speak, is a community called Munga community, perhaps in Karim, in what they call Karim Lamido local government of Taraba State. Huge number of women came out to protest over killings. And what's the most important thing to the state governor is preparing how to leave the party and decamp to PDP. As we speak, as of yesterday, Christ Apostolic Church was attacked in Iwo community in Asin local government area of Kwara State. Media reports said some persons were killed and some persons were taken away. But again, what has happened? As at yesterday, the greatest concern to the politician is Wike, Sheyi Makinde, and Bala Mohammed were in his PDP secretariat fighting over the ownership of PDP. As we speak today, the kidnapping in KB State, the attack in Apostolic Church, and some other part of Nigeria is not even making headlines. It's not dominating the headlines rather. But what's dominating the headlines? It's the Wike and the PDP crisis. That is the situation we have found ourselves. And unfortunately for all of us, I had said that the greatest concern for the political elite, it's politics, access to power, how do we capture power, continue our access to public resources? That is what's the most important to them. Don't forget that a member of PDP, I think PDP national chairman, yesterday said, oh, all of a sudden, Trump should come to and save democracy in Nigeria. Not necessarily that Trump should come and address the killing, but because he feels he's losing, and all of a sudden he realizes the importance of Trump coming. So what I'm saying, therefore, or what I had even told you yesterday, that our political decisions, our behavior is clearly shaped by our political interest. And for the political elite, I do not understand how the president of the country, after receiving the news of KB attack, you had the temerity to ask the vice president to go to Kogi State less than 24 hours after incident to receive the decantates. This should be something that worries everybody. The politicians are not fighting over governance. They are not fighting over policies that are antithetical or inimical to the Nigerian masses. Their greatest concern, and the fight is all about politics. And I'm saying, therefore, Bishop, that we need to understand that within the democracy conversation and democracy communication, that the primary concern is that you must enable conversation, that you must listen to the citizens, and you must have clear, inclusive, and participatory communication, laced with sincere communication, to allow the people to really understand what is going on. But what do we see? What we see is that the state is interested in politics. The state is even interested in denial, and the state is even interested in propaganda and lies. And our communication towards the kind of insecurity we are facing in this country, the state communication strategies has always been denial, propaganda, and outright lies. And that's why you see that increasingly, people are beginning to understand that the greatest concern for the ruling elite is politics. And I had told you before that the threat by Trump for US to invade the Nigerian state is a clear validation of governance failure. And for these people, remember I told you last week that my sense is that if you keep good governance and you keep debts and ask average Nigerian politicians to choose between good governance and debt, the chances for me is that he is likely to choose debt, because for these guys, good governance is not on the table. In short, governance is not even on the table, let alone good governance. Governance is not on the table. And I'm saying, therefore, that the Nigerian people, the Nigerian citizens must begin to have citizen demand, clear citizen demand. We must have measurement indicators. Since the Donald Trump threat, what has happened? What has changed? Bishop, rather than we recording reduction in the attack, what we have seen in the last 2 weeks is the escalation of attacks. Now, and that's why I told you yesterday, and I made bold to say, that the Nigerian state has lost the capacity to address insecurity, not necessarily because that the army and the police cannot do the job, but because the elite compromise we have allowed for a long time, laced with politics at the center of our decision, has made it practically impossible for all of us to address insecurity. And it's a bigger challenge for all of us. And I hope that as we move on, the political elites who will practice state capture in the disguise of politics, in democracy, we begin to have clear understanding that we really need peace. But let me conclude by saying, or let me end this section by saying, one of the things I had told the bishop is that it is not the bandits, it is not the ISWAP members, and it is not the Boko Haram members, and it's not even the Eastern Security, the IPOB members on the streets that need participatory and negotiation. They are not the one that need the kind of the de-radicalization conversation we are talking about. It is the political elite. It is the sponsors of these people. It is the sponsors that need this de-radicalization. And I made bold to say it. It is not those of the foot soldiers on the field. Because by the time you address the elite to have clear understanding that politics, good is important, but governance takes precedent. That is the only time we begin to record success. But for now, we are just deceiving ourselves and we are in deception. This is what I'm saying, Bishop.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Liberty. I really appreciate you for that particular contribution to the program this morning. Now, as you were talking, some things were popping up in my head, and it might be, but not even a digression on our talk this morning. But you can correct me, sir, if I'm wrong. Now, I want to believe that for governance to exist in the nation, then we must...
For governance to do what? Sorry, for governance to do what?
I said that for governance to really exist or to take its roots in the nation, then I want to strongly believe that we must have citizens that are law-abiding. I don't know whether you get my point, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I want to, but you can correct me, sir, if I'm wrong, because I'm having like an idea of when you were speaking. Now, and I want to ask, sir, that from the way these leaders have almost politicized everything, and sometimes even the citizens ourselves, do you think that one of our major issues is that many of these, our political elites, are not actually law-abiding?
Well, you're very correct that the primary responsibility of citizens, including the leaders, is to be law-abiding. But you cannot be discussing law-abiding in a country where impunity is overboard. Now, why people obey the law, why people avoid recalcitrant, why people try not to be non-conformist, why people obey the law is the fear of repercussion and sanction. That's what it is. Law has its own punishment. Do you understand me? So you see that before something becomes a crime, it must be clearly defined in a written law, and perhaps with sanctions or punishments. So in a society where there is no punishment for deviants, there is no punishment for non-conformists, and there's no punishment for recalcitrants, of course you do not expect people to behave well. And that's why when you travel out of this country, the politicians that behave this way, when they leave this country and find themselves in another man's country, they behave well. Because you know, by the time you beat traffic, by the time you slap somebody, by the time you abuse the processes outside the country, you go in for it, irrespective of who you are. In that situation, there will be orderliness. But in a society where there's no punishment for disobeying the law, in a society that is run in what do they call it, impunity, not based dictate of the law, you are not expected to see anybody to obey the law. That's what I'm saying. And also in a society where the citizens, good number of the citizens praise and justify impunity. Good number of the citizens do not even believe that the states, the state officials have the responsibility to obey the law. In a situation where if you drive on the street, the what do they call it now? The security men don't even believe that they should drive. They don't even believe that they are not supposed to drive against the traffic. In a situation where people who find themselves in the position of authority believe they are the law. A situation whereby in this country as we speak, even if you're looking for a job, the jobs the jobs are for sale. And at the end of the day, we know these things. People who have stolen money in this country, people who have diverted public resources, people who have made it practically impossible for refineries to work, people who have been accused of sponsoring pogrom killings in this country, people who have taken arms against the state, they are walking freely in a country that has law. So at the end of the day, what makes people to behave well is the justice system. If the justice system doesn't guarantee justice, if the justice system does not ensure that those that have committed crime or fraud against the state are not put into, are not prosecuted and jailed, you do not expect another person to behave well. So to your question, therefore, of course, we have laws. But the truth of the matter, therefore, is that a society where the ruling elite, where some persons believe that they are bigger than the laws, therefore means what happened is that under the internalization of underdevelopment theory, what happened is that people are beginning to think that it's normal to break the law. It is normal for the rich to break the law, because even the police officers, if you drive your cars, sometimes I drive my cars in some places in Abuja. Oh, because my car is not a Jeep, it's not a big man's car. Sometimes you may not even allowed to enter some places, or you may be given thorough search. But the man who has a big car comes and leaves. That is what we want. That is what I'm saying. So I am saying that for us to have working and efficient society, everybody must be equal before the law. And that's the beauty of democracy. Equality before the law. Constitution and constitutionalism. No man must be seen to be above the law, including the president. That is how you work, or you have functional and efficient society. This is what I'm saying, Bishop.
All right, thank you so much, sir. Dr. Liberty, I really appreciate you. All right, lastly on my question. Now, what would be your own advice, or a kind of a suggestion, or how do you think the leaders should separate politics from governance in the light of what you are facing in the country today?
Well, our greatest challenge, therefore, is that you do not expect the leaders to behave well. It's not done that way. It is the responsibility of the states, it is the responsibility of the citizens to get the leaders to do the right thing. And I always tell you something. As a countries that have made progress, are not countries that the citizens pray for the leaders, are countries that the citizens hold their leaders accountable. A country where the leaders are not afraid of the citizen is a finished country. That's what it is. Because why you will not do, or why the leaders will not do some things, is because they know that when they do it, the citizens will rise. Why the leaders are forced to behave well is that the citizens would demand the citizen would demand accountability. But in a country where a greater number of citizens actually make excuses for failure, actually defend and reinforce failure, that kind of country is never going to move forward. So we must not think that time comes when the leaders will begin to do the right thing, because in any case, who are the major beneficiaries of the state failure? They are the political elites. They are the elite. That the country is not working today. They are the major beneficiary. Look at, for instance, the removal of subsidy. Look at it now. Since the removal of subsidy, who are the major beneficiaries of the subsidy? The 36 state governors. The conversation around the removal of subsidy is that when you remove subsidy, you will be able to get money that will provide infrastructure and guarantee good governance. And Bishop, I challenge you to tell me, since the removal of subsidy, that the governors have made more money. Tell me any state apart from Abia State that is showing any evidence of good of subsidy removal. And the question you ask yourself, why are we not asking questions? Why are the cities? I did not even believe that the Nigerian people will fight if today the Tinubu administration decide to say that Nigerians will buy a liter of petrol for 2,500, we will murmur and we still keep buying. So it's a country that the citizens do not put resistance to anti-policies. You don't expect the leaders to behave well. And let me conclude by saying, and I'm saying this on air, Nigerians must not expect that the behavior of the citizens, we must not expect that even if Tinubu didn't win election in 2027, we must not expect that whoever comes before Tinubu is going to be better, because we have accepted failure as a standard of governance. During the time of Buhari regime, everybody was complaining and we couldn't do anything. And Tinubu came, he's even worse off. And we have taken it and we are still murmuring. So if another person comes, the person may even likely be worse than Tinubu, because there are no standard indicators of performance or indicators of governance in this country. Everything goes. And when these things happen, you see people coming to radio station. You see people going to social media. You see people going to conventional media to make excuses for failure. So Bishop, my answer, therefore, it is not the responsibility of the elite to begin to give good governance. It is the responsibility of the citizens to demand good governance. Good governance are not freely given. It's being demanded by the citizen. And the leaders are really under the obligation to give out, to dish out good governance, because ideally, there are two core fundamental reasons the state exists. One is the protection of lives and property. Two is the citizen welfare. Which of these things has happened? In any case, huge amount of money has been spent in this country for the sake of insecurity. Bishop, have we achieved security? How are we asking questions about security spending in this country? This is the question I'm asking. Of course, Nigerian state has removed subsidy. Despite the fact that we have removed subsidy, we have borrowed more money, more than the time we were even paying subsidy. How many citizens or how many of us are asking, wait a minute, can you explain to us? Can you explain to the citizen how you deploy public resources? Because the function or the functionality of governance is strategic deployment of public resources. That is all about governance. So don't think or wake up one day to think that even if the most taunted, the most acclaimed P2B, even if P2B becomes Nigerian president, as for example, with the kind of the system we run and the kind of the citizens we have, he's not likely to do anything more serious. Didn't Yaradua fix this country before he died? When Yaradua died, didn't we reverse back to the war situation? Even if Tinubu becomes the best president today, what has happened? What will happen? What happens after 8 years? So I think that it is not the leaders that we really should be blaming. It is the citizens that we should rise up to demand good governance. And it should be the fear of the citizens that will make the leaders to begin to do the right thing. This is how it is, Bishop.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Liberty. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning. I don't have any other question other than to just appreciate you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you so much.